There are a lot of things you've done during your life till now. But what's the thing which is still in your memory?
Which things are still in my memory? Well, there are a number of standout occasions that are still very fresh in my memory. I think probably the first major thrill was winning the Eurovision in 1967 in Vienna. That was well, I was still very young in the business at that time. I think I'd only been a songwriter for 18 months, and so that was obviously a great thrill. There are others, like there was one magical occasion when in a concert with Richard Harris and the London Symphony Orchestra, conducting the London Symphony Orchestra with Richard Harris. Because with Richard Harris it was always a very narrow path that you trod between success and disaster. With Harris you could never really be sure if he was going to come in at the right place, sing the right notes, or get out at the right place. And with the London Symphony Orchestra, that was a hell of a gamble. So I suppose that's what made it a little bit special. Having Elvis Presley record one of my songs, I think, was also a great thrill. You see, people of my age, people who grew up in the music of the 50s, Presley was responsible for a lot of us being in the music business. I mean, before Elvis Presley, you had songs like "How Much Is That Doggy in the Window?" and "She Wears Red Feathers on a Hooly Hooly Skirt." You know, these kind of nonsense songs. It was really, Presley was the man who, for me anyway, made popular music something much more vital and something much more relevant to what was actually happening in life and in the world. But when I think about it, there are just lots of things, and funnily enough, those memories change as life goes on, and I look back. I remember other things. And even in the last year, the thrill of doing my first ever concert with my orchestra, and the thrill of having my first standing ovation from an audience. That's a recent memory, but that's still that is as important to me as some of the others.
But you started off with, well, you could call it folk music in a way. I mean, you did a lot of songs with the Dubliners together, and as far as I know, you wrote "The Town I Love So Well," so which is more or less folk standard nowadays.
Yeah.
You went on to Bay City Rollers, which looked like folkies, and the Tartans, but which didn't do anything connected with folk. But isn't it strange for someone like you doing so many different things? I mean, a lot of producers and composers more or less stick to one particular part of music, to one sort of music. But you did 4 or 5 different things. You went on from folk to pop and rock to more or less pop classical music.
Yeah,
so
and
how do you?
And now I'm doing something different again. It's always been an approach that I've had. It's one way of keeping your energy and your enthusiasm alive. I mean, I am as enthusiastic and energetic about what I do in the music business today as I was when I started in it 20 years ago. And I've always enjoyed it. When I've got to a stage with any particular sort of music that it was beginning to lose its excitement or lose its appeal, or I was beginning to feel bored or locked in. I mean, for example, after a period of producing teeny bopper bands like the Bay City Rollers and Kenny and Slick, they were 3 bands that I did, which were all hit bands, but were all pretty much teeny bopper bands. Well, that was a period that lasted maybe 3 years. At the end of that 3 years, I was just bored with teeny bopper music. So I left I left teeny bopper music alone. I in fact left London and went and lived in Ireland for a year in Donegal, and probably got back to my roots a little bit that way as well. But the secret of survival and the secret of enjoyment for me in the music business has always been to be able to change from one style to the other. That's what's kept my energy up, what's kept my enthusiasm up, and what has kept me, why I've been able to be successful at different things for a long period.
But isn't it strange, the moment you left the group, they more or less lost all their main popularity, to say it in that way. I mean, the Dubliners were big hits during the time they worked together with you. After you left the group as a songwriter, composer, producer, whatever, they were still successful, but not the way they've been before. The same happened to the Bay City Rollers, to Kenny, to Slick.
Yeah, you see, even the best artists, the best groups and the best performers need direction. They need production. That's what a producer's role is. And when I take on the role of a producer for any group, it's very important to me. The responsibility of guiding the career of any artist is a hell of a responsibility for a producer. And I would never take that responsibility lightly. And so I would get involved very, very deeply with the group and with the music and with the production. I would almost become an extra member of the group. And well, for different reasons, I stopped producing the Dubliners because, not that I had stopped enjoying it, but because I just needed to do other things, and my schedules were very full. And producing the Dubliners, although they were very successful in the folk area, I mean, on a worldwide scale, would not have been the sellers of records that many other bands would have been, for example, like the Bay City Rollers. And so I just had to leave the Dubliners. With the Bay City Rollers, it was a different story. I mean, I got them to a peak where we had a #1 single in America, a #2 album. They'd had 5 or 6 hits in a trot in the UK and over Europe. Then they began to be impossible to work with. They began to think that they knew more about the game than I did. They began to think that I was incidental to the success. They couldn't see that I had been the architect of the success on record. And they became very difficult to work with in the studio. Therefore, for the same reasons that I said earlier on, when I stop enjoying anything, I have to leave it alone. And I just stopped enjoying working with the Bay City Rollers, and I said, well, I got to leave this alone. They were convinced that they could go ahead and do it without me. They thought it was an easy matter of just picking up another producer. And bear in mind, then they were #1 in America, so they had their choice of 100 producers. And well, as it happened, they went through about 4 producers within the next year, but they never recaptured the same success because I had built the group up, and I knew exactly what their strengths and what their weaknesses were. Another producer who would come into the situation would say, "Hey man, the Bay City Rollers are #1 on the charts. I've been asked to produce them." Wow. But their attitude to the group would be totally different from mine, because a producer coming in cold to the situation wouldn't understand the background as I had done, and would be probably influenced by the fact that he had a hit act. But to me, I didn't see them in that light. They may have been a hit act, but to me they were the Bay City Rollers that 2 years previously were unknown and were dead, and who were growing all the time and were learning, but I knew their weaknesses and knew their strengths. So, as I say, the best of groups, the best of artists need direction and need production.
To me, always the music which was involved with folk music, the songs you wrote which were involved with folk music, were the best ones because they had more emotion, like all the other ones, like The Town I Loved So Well. And now you've done a step forward back. Well, you changed the folk music in a way, but you're back at the folk roots. Was there a special reason why you went back to the folk roots? Is it because you're Irish, and Irish people are more or less very traditional in the way of music, or have a very strong feeling for their own music?
I think undoubtedly. Well, in my case anyway, Irish music has always been a very important part of of my life and of my even of my professional life. And for years, alongside of producing the, the more commercial acts like the Bay City Rollers. I mean, when you said earlier on that I went from folk music into the Bay City Rollers, that wasn't quite correct, because I was actually doing the Dubliners and the Bay City Rollers at the same time, which was probably even more difficult to understand. But I have always been involved with Irish folk music to a greater or lesser extent, with the Dubliners, with Planxty, and currently with the Fury Brothers. And it's something which has always given me great satisfaction and great enjoyment. And I agree with you that some of the songs that I've written in that idiom, like The Town I Love So Well, like Scorn Not His Simplicity, like The Old Man, are songs which have got a lot more substance than Shang-a-Lang or Puppet on a String. So probably it was inevitable that I would get back to my roots in Irish music. I've always been a piano player. I've always been an orchestrator. I've always been an arranger and a conductor. So maybe I've been gravitating towards this for the last 20 years without really being conscious of it.
What really struck me was with new record is more or less expected a record with pop influence. When I heard that you did an Irish tranquility thing, with Irish traditional music, pop influence, but more or less in the Cayley, Cayley sort of music. But what came out was something really different. I mean, a lot of people said it sounds like Richard Kleiderman. And there are a lot of piano players who try to do the same things, or play piano, have a big orchestra behind them. Do you feel insulted if someone tries to compare your
to compare me with like Richard Clayton?
Yeah.
No, I don't feel insulted. It would be naive of me to say that Richard Clayderman is irrelevant in this discussion. Richard Clayderman certainly has made a lot of people aware of the piano again, and is a fine piano player. But Richard Clayderman and I are two totally different people, two totally different piano players. For a start off, well, as we've just been talking about the last 15 minutes, I am the product of 20 years of what I've been doing. What my records or what my music is now is a product of 20 years. No one in a record company invented Phil Coulter the way they invented Richard Clayderman. And I'm not a vehicle for anybody else's songs. Nobody writes instrumentals and says to me, right, you record 10 of these on your next album. And Richard Clayderman's approach is very different from mine. What I'm doing, I'm going back into folk roots, and I'm taking those tunes and I am playing them in a way that they've never been played before. I'm taking those melodies that most people outside of Ireland have not heard before, and I'm presenting them in a way that is tasteful and basically simple. I am not being very flashy on the piano and burying the songs and burying the melodies. The whole secret of my approach is to leave the melodies all the space that they need to breathe. When I do my concerts, I tell my audiences that the real stars of the show are the melodies, are the tunes, and that's exactly the way I feel about it. There's some of the most beautiful melodies in the world in Irish folk music. And what I do is a combination of those melodies and some of my own original songs, like The Town I Love So Well, that I do instrumental versions of. Some new things that I write in that general idiom.
So what is the feeling about that particular song? I don't know because why I'm coming always back on this song. But to me, it's a song which I think more or less a lot of people won't know that it was composed by you, but they think it's a real traditional. So what is the feeling of having written a song and it has become a folk song, so you're actually not the composer anymore for a lot of people?
Yeah, it's a very, very strange feeling. It's almost like having written your own epitaph, because I know that when they lay me away, oh, and undoubtedly that will be in my hometown in Derry. I mean, I know that the organ will be playing the tune I loved so well. That's a very strange feeling. It's probably the song that is closest to my heart, because it's a very autobiographical song. There's a lot of me in that song. And it's the song that has given me probably most satisfaction. I mean, when we talked about the standout recollections in my career, another standout memory is to hear 15,000 people at a march years ago singing the tune I love so well. That was an amazing thrill. And I remember once bumping into some kids in my hometown in Derry. I didn't know them, but they recognized me and they came and spoke to me. These were 15, 16-year-old boys, and they were telling me about a great party and dance they'd had in their youth club in the Bogside the week before. And they said that there was hundreds of people there. It was the big event of the year. And they said at the end they didn't have a record of the national anthem, so they played the tune I love so well instead. And that, to them, they said it in a light-hearted way, but to me that was very very important, and to me that was the ultimate compliment.
Is it true that you're Irish through and through?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You know, I'm not a professional Irishman. And I don't propound my Irishness in ways that other notable Irishmen do. You know, like I don't get drunk and jump on tables. But I'm certainly very aware of my Irishness and very aware of my culture, and very very proud of my Irishness as well.
Yeah, I just noticed because there aren't a lot of people that say Derry. That's just.
Say Derry? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody who lives in Derry says Derry.
Except those others.
Well, I mean, even people of shall we say, of the persuasion who believe that the 6 counties of Ireland are British, though even people of that persuasion who live in London Derry still call it Derry. The football club is called Derry City. The rugby club is called City of Derry. You know, so it was Derry before it was London Derry, and I've grown up calling it Derry, and I'm not about to change now.
What I was always looking for was the white coast, the white strand, but I didn't see it.
The which?
The white strand, the coast. Isn't Derry the name for white coast?
No. Derry is from the Irish Dira, meaning an oak grove. When the city was founded by Saint Columba, it was by the river, and it was an oak grove, and it got the name Dira from the oak grove.
Somebody told me that means white strand.
Well, somebody's given you a bum steer.
Yeah, it seems so. Back to the music. Is there a special reason why you choose just very slow melodies, more or less airs, not so much jigs, double jigs?
Oh yeah, I deliberately. I mean, the jigs and reels, that area of Irish music has been pretty well covered, I think. I mean, and I think that I did it pretty well with bands like the Dubliners or Planxty. But the area that has not been covered are these more melodic tunes. And even in Ireland, a lot of these songs, people have heard them sung 100 times by drunk men at weddings or parties, and they say, "Oh my God, I never want to hear that song again." But when you just we strip all of that away from it and let the melody speak as a melody, just simply, and as I say, in my arrangements, they're not complicated. They're not busy. I'm not trying to show off my technique on the piano. The melodies just breathe and they speak for themselves. So I think I chose, it wasn't a policy. I didn't say to myself, right, I will only play slow tunes, but seeking out the best melodies in Irish folk music. The most melodic certainly are the slow ones.
Is there a special reason? No, the wrong way.
There's always a special reason.
Always. I got a blackout. Totally blackout.
Have some coffee there.
Yeah. Stop. Do you think the future way will always be, or will again be, traditional music of Ireland, or will you again start something different, totally different?
Well, all I can tell you is that what I'm doing at the moment I'm very comfortable with. I've never done anything, of all of the projects I've done before, I've never done anything that I've felt so that I can identify with so totally, because what I'm doing is a lot of myself. When I do my concerts, it's a lot of myself that goes into the concerts. There's a lot of me in the music. There's a lot of me in the performances, and I actually would like to think that I'll be doing this in another 10 years' time. I would never have said that when I was writing and producing teeny bopper bands. I would never have thought to myself, well, I want to be doing this in 10 years. But what I'm doing now, there's a timelessness about this. There's a timelessness about the music that doesn't grow stale. It will still be as relevant. These melodies have been around for hundreds of years. They don't go off. They don't go bad like fish. You know, they get better, if anything. And the way that I'm doing them is not dependent upon current fads of synthesizers and electronic music, whatever, which undoubtedly will be out of fashion in another couple of years. What has never been out of fashion is good melodies. If you look at the charts over the last 30 years, or how long they've been keeping charts, and you look at the top 20, you'll see all sorts of different fads, all sorts of different gimmicky kind of things, and you see things. You'll see a period when calypsos were very popular. You'll see a period when Dixieland jazz was very popular. You'll see a period when skiffle was very popular. You'll see a period when reggae was popular. You'll see a period when rhythm and blues was popular, Tamla Motown and that sort of thing. And you'll see how all these fashions have changed. But what you will also see, that alongside of all of those fashionable things, good melodies, good songs have always been there. And melodies are timeless. And that's why I think that, as I say, these tunes that I'm playing now have been around for hundreds of years. And in my lifetime, they certainly are not going to go stale. All I can tell you is that when I walk away from the piano after doing a concert, and our concerts last for, I'm on stage for 2 hours and 40 minutes. When I walk away, it's a nice warm feeling to think that there aren't too many people who could have done what I have just done better than I have done it. That's a very important feeling for me, very important feeling for me as a writer or as a producer and now as a performer. And I think that's what makes this thing as exciting and as fulfilling as it is. At my stage of career, most producers or writers or performers have now got tired of being on the road and doing concerts. I want to stop doing that and just work in studios. Saying, well, I've been working in studios for the last 20 years, and now I'm going out on the road. To a lot of people, that's crazy. And I'm going out on the road with like a huge team of people. We just finished a tour in Ireland, and in that tour, I had 40 people on the road. Well, that's a hell of an undertaking, and the tendency in touring acts today is to try and keep their numbers as small as possible. You may or may not have seen Neil Diamond when he last toured in Europe. The previous time I'd seen Neil Diamond, he was working with a 30-piece orchestra. This time he was working with an 8-piece band, you know, with synthesizers instead of the full orchestra. Now, that's fine for Neil Diamond, and it sounded terrific, but it's important for me that what I'm doing, I do it properly. And so it's a hell of an undertaking to go on the road without those kind of people. Now, we did our first London concert on Saturday night last, and of course there was a party afterwards, and I got to bed at 4:30. Well, I had to be up at 6:30 to catch a flight to come to Berlin. Now, some people would say, well, why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. But I do need to do it because I care about what this is important to me, and I'm excited by it. And it's like a young plant that still needs to be carefully nurtured and carefully tended and protected. So I'm very protective about what I'm doing, and I'm very keen that it's given every opportunity. And that's why the more people who hear my music, the more fulfilling it is for me. That's always been my approach from day one, even as a songwriter. I never wanted to write songs for a select few people. I never wanted to make records just for the critics. I wanted the biggest possible number of people to hear my songs and hear my records. And it's the same thing with the Tranquility series. I want people to hear it, and I want people to enjoy it. And I want people in Germany to hear it, and I know that people in Germany who have heard it already have liked it an awful lot, and I know that there is a feeling which I've been aware of for years since producing the Dubliners, and before that. There is a great interest in this country in Irish music, and I feel sure that when people hear what I have done with those Irish tunes, that they will enjoy it.
Let's change for a short moment the subject, from music to more private things. Not intimate, but private things. Do you like fish and chips?
Do I like fish and chips? I love fish and chips, yeah. In fact, one of my great joys in life is eating. I'm an avid eater. Not that I'm a big eater, but I'm an avid eater. And I love to try different things. And to me, I could get the same kick out of eating fish and chips out of paper, if they're good fish and chips, as I can from having a gourmet meal in a 5-star restaurant. If it's good, bad fish and chips are just as bad as a bad gourmet meal, you know. But good fish and chips of their type are great. I mean, there is not far from my office in London, there is a little fish and chip shop where the London taxi drivers, the cabbies, all go. And I'll quite happily go there and sit with the cabbies and have fish and chips on one night, and the following night be in like the most expensive gourmet restaurant or club in London, sitting with managing directors and millionaires. Because I think that well, I was eating fish and chips a long, long time before I could afford gourmet food, so they still taste good to me.
Can you compare these habits of eating to the music you did too? Let's say that maybe the music you do now is more or less a gourmet meal, and the music you did with the Bay City Rollers, with the teeny boppers, that's the fish and chips?
I wouldn't put it quite like that, no. It's hard to draw that comparison. Now, I would think that what I was doing with the Bay City Rollers was probably McDonald's. You know, do you have McDonald's here?
Yeah.
Hamburgers? That was probably, you know, snack food. Some people would call it junk food. What I'm doing now is more substantial food. Not necessarily gourmet, but it's substantial. You know, it is. It's a bit more solid.
Okay, thank you.
We've got it. Not at all. It's been a pleasure.